What up, peeps? From the neighborhood, Monomahos here, speaking to you on a lovely Memorial Day, beginning of summer, the traditional beginning of summer. That's when the pools would open. That's when the schools would close. They'd close on the Friday before. Anyway, just a loaded day. And tomorrow is Tuesday, May 29th, 2018. And as you can tell from the comment above, it was on a Tuesday, 565 years ago, exactly, on a Tuesday, that Constantinople fell to the Turks. I've written some stuff up there about that, and just kind of like intuitive stuff. I look at things in a grand narrative way anymore, and I think I've touched on something there, or intimated something that I think is significant in the meaning of Byzantium, the meaning of Constantinople. Now I'd like to talk about the meaning of the loss of Constantinople, its fall. And to do that, I want to speak about Tommy Robinson. And you're probably going to say, well, what does that got to do with anything? It really doesn't, but work with me, okay? Anyway. Excuse me, had to have a Chardonnay. Anyway, the thing is, as you may or may not know, Tommy Robinson is a right-wing agitator in England. He founded the English Defence League, which spoke up against Islamic immigration and creeping Sharia law. And he's been actively persecuted over the past several years, arrested and jailed a couple of times. Well, he went off into Leeds, England, and live streamed a trial of these Muslim Pakistani rapists, alleged rapists, but rapists. And what they do is they groom little girls and they turn them into prostitutes. And it's never Pakistani girls; it's always English girls, white girls. Okay, and the establishment in England is probably even worse than our establishment. I'm sad to say this. They've done everything they could to hush up all pathology associated with the Muslim migration, especially that subset of Muslim migration from Pakistan. And that's a sad thing, because not all Pakistanis are bad, just like nobody is all good, nobody's all bad. But as a rule, these people are just horrible. And they engage in pathology that just makes the skin crawl. The pathology in question here is the grooming of little girls and turning them into prostitutes. And this involves gang rape often. Okay? So finally, the British police have done their best to look the other way, especially in Rotherham, England. For 20 years, they went out of their way to look the other way, until it got so bad that they couldn't do it anymore. But what they're trying to do is, okay, their back is pushed against the wall, they have to do something, but they're still trying to preserve the narrative of vibrancy and cultural diversity and multiculturalism and all that, and that we're all the same, and kumbaya, let's hold hands and get on that hilltop in Italy and sing, I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. Nonsense. Okay? Just absolute pure horseshit. Pardon my French. Anyway, so Tommy Robinson went to the courthouse in Leeds. Outside, he filmed just what was going on outside. Well, he was arrested immediately, hauled off before a judge without legal representation, and immediately sentenced to prison. He was hauled off to prison for a 13-month prison sentence, where he will probably be murdered, because in Great Britain, the people who control the prisons, the gangs, because of their extreme criminality, are these third world people, especially Muslims. Last year, a man who threw a bacon sandwich at a mosque was arrested and thrown into prison, and he was murdered. Okay? So what we're talking about here is summary execution. Lynching. What's the difference between that and lynching a man who raped a woman? You know, we all get worked up about that here in America. Okay? Well, this is the same thing. He's going to be lynched. Unless he's put in protective custody, and I don't think he will be. I hope he is, but that's not the point. He shouldn't have even been arrested. That's the point. He shouldn't have been arrested. Excuse me. Tommy Robinson is an Englishman. And that island gave us Magna Carta. That island gave us the Declaration of Independence. That island gave us the Constitution. Not directly, but that island gave us the people who made all that happen. The ethnos. Okay? You're not going to find that ethnos in Pakistan or in Nigeria. You're just not. Okay? And now England is being slowly taken over by that ethnos. Not the original ethnos, not the people who colonized it, not the people who are indigenous to it, the people who have their own folkways and customs and traditions, all rooted in Christianity. No, not those people. Different people. People from the third world. People who do not see anything wrong with raping little girls, or honor killings, or mutilating females in their genitalia. Okay? That's what's going on here. And that's the point. This is why the First Amendment is crucial to America. But I think that our betters, our elite, are trying to get rid of it. I really do. I don't think they're going to succeed. At least I hope not. Praying here. Okay? That they don't. But if we really wanted to do good, instead of spreading neoconservatism across the oceans and in other lands, maybe what we should do is force other lands to adopt a version of the First Amendment. I'd like to say the Second Amendment too, but that may be a bridge too far. We have our own cultural reasons why the Second Amendment is so ingrained in the DNA of the average American. Okay, historic American. Okay, that's a different issue. I don't want to go into right now. But if we were really interested and serious about spreading freedom and democracy, what we really would do would spread the First Amendment and make it next to impossible for any government to do what they're doing to Tommy Robinson. And it's interesting. On an aside, the judge did something called delisting. I'd never heard of it before, but what it means is every newspaper, every news organization in Great Britain cannot speak about this, or else they'll get in trouble. They could get thrown in jail or fined heavily. Bloggers can't. See, this is why the First Amendment is so important. It's so vitally important. Okay? So, excuse me. So what's going on here? It's not a good thing. Now, of course, by doing so, they're defeating the purpose. This judge, probably a dumbass liberal, okay, pardon my French, but I'm just red in the face angry about this, wanted to, and part of the aristocracy or the oligarchy, the deep state, wanted to keep everything as hush-hush as possible, didn't want this to get out. Well, now it's gotten out. It's not only gotten out in England, it's gotten out all over the world. It's gone viral, and that's good. Personally, if I were a Briton, what I would do is I would organize a gang of maybe 1,000 men, arm them with pitchforks and clubs, and go to that prison where he's held and demand entrance and demand to get him out. Yes, you heard me right. That's vigilante action. Okay? I'm not saying they should threaten violence. I'm not saying they should act on violence. But this is, but it should be a very real threat, because it's going to come to this, folks. It's going to come to it eventually. Okay? And it's unnecessary. Because Britain has a constitution too. Theirs isn't written down. But they have laws and customs. What is happening to Tommy Robinson violates every single last one of those traditional English customs to which we are the inheritors of. But at least our founding fathers had the presence of mind to write it down in a Bill of Rights. Is this going to happen? I don't know. I just say pray for him. And pray this doesn't happen again. And pray that, like that scene in the movie Braveheart, when the Highlanders had all they could, and they had it up to here, and they just went spontaneous apeshit on the English, on their English overlords, and eventually took back their country. We can hope that that's going to happen here in England. It has to. Otherwise, it's gone forever. Anyway, forgive me for my impassioned pleas here. Forgive me for my infelicitous words every now and then. But I'm pissed off, and every right-thinking man should be. Anyway, ultimately the lesson is Byzantium, it lived for over 1,000 years. It had a lot of stuff that it brought to the table, to the civilizational table. It was a great civilization, and it was a Christian civilization. And that's a good thing. And it found that perfect synthesis or symphonia between church and state. Let's not criticize it as some kind of evil theocracy. When we ourselves, as we can see now with Tommy Robinson, are in the process of throwing away our own libertarian, liberal, in the best sense of the word, patrimony, for no reason whatsoever. None whatsoever, except that we don't want to hurt people's feelings or something nonsense like that. Anyway, Pax Vobiscum, let's try to love one another, and adios.